One more thing before we begin, I'd like to get your commitment on 100% focus and participation here and now, right? I'm going to go fast, so you need to be focused. Otherwise, you're going to miss an important piece and things will not connect. Okay, thumbs up if you are here.
Okay.
Now.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So let's begin. Folks, we are doing a lot of things. Like, you do the work, you take care of yourself, of your family, of, bills, your health, a lot of things. And you're not procrastinating on those. You're here now, you're thriving, have food on your table, have roof over your head. Your brain is not forgetting to take care of all of that, right? Just understand that procrastination isn't the property of your brain. Like, your brain is actually really good at taking care of things that are important to you, right? So nobody is a procrastinator. Your brain is perfectly capable of taking care of the important things. Again, that's why you're here now and thriving. And now I like to tell you why the brain procrastinates on some things, but not on others. There are 3 secrets and problems. Number 1, when you procrastinate, the brain, without consulting you, decided that it is not important. And I'm going to explain to you why it happens. So number 1, your brain decided it is not a priority. It is not important. That's why you are delaying it. And your brain is allowing perfectly. Number 2, your brain has decided, again, without consulting you, it all happens subconsciously, that it is too expensive to take that action. And I'm going to tell you again, why is that the case, right? Why does your brain decide something is more expensive, and you'll understand what it is, and something is less expensive? And number 3 is your brain forgets certain things, but not others. Your brain simply forgets. That's why you procrastinate. It just slips your mind. It happens to all of us on certain things, but not on others, right? It's not that you have bad memory. No, your brain prioritizes. So one core concept you always want to keep in mind, your brain's primary purpose, like the purpose number 1, to make sure that you always have enough energy to live, to survive, right? This is what your brain always calculating whatever you are deciding to do. Do we have enough energy to do that, or we don't? Are we going to waste a lot of energy or not? And it's all happening, at the background. You're not aware of this process, but that's what's happening. Your brain is calculating, however imperfectly, this energy equation, trying to make you survive. That's all your brain cares about, and your survival and thriving. So now let's jump into the 3 problems that I told you about that neuroscience tells us, this is how the brain works, and you need to address them if you want to get certain things done, and you want to stop procrastinating on them. So number 1, how does the brain decide what's important or what not? Again, back to the brain's primary purpose, your survival. So your brain, let's say you are deciding to start a podcast, right? Your brain needs to understand, okay, I'm taking care of your bills, I'm taking care of your food, I'm taking care, of your social life. It all related to procreation, social status, survival, thrival. We understand this. How does your podcast relate to any of that? How is it helping you to survive and thrive? Did you ever have a conversation with yourself? Why do I want to do this podcast in the first place? If you just want to do it for the heck of it, to be honest, unless you have a lot of free time, your brain will not do that. That's not important. Why would I care to spend resources, right? So the first strategy to make anything important for you, you need to sit down and, in writing, preferably, have this conversation with yourself. Why is this project important? Why is starting a podcast important? Or why starting to do acting important, right? Why working on my brand is important? And then you want to ask again and again, why? How does it provide for me? How does it increase my social status? How does it increase my earnings, or has the potential? It's all very subjective, but you need to have this conversation with yourself, preferably again in writing, so you don't forget these things. And when you do, you have the reminder. So you need to make this connection. Besides that, what increases motivation? Yeah, okay, your reason why is basically the reward that your brain gets. And you need to understand how, again, does it contribute to your thriving, your surviving, your social status, your money making. You need to make this connection. And again, it can be potential, but you need to understand this connection. The second thing you need to be doing, tracking progress, right? So if you decide to work on your podcast, your brain needs to make sure about anything you do that the reward is coming and you're making progress. How do you do that? You create some sort of calendar or milestone tracking, right? So day number 1, I recorded an episode. Day number 2, I put it out and so many people listened, right? You have the statistics. Day number 3, day number 4, day number 5. Your brain needs to understand the progression and the movement forward toward your goal. Otherwise, your brain will decide it is a waste of time and resources, and therefore, we're going to dedicate your resources somewhere else. That's what always happening at the background. I'm just talking it through, right? It happens very fast. So your brain always prioritizes. Resources are limited. You don't have, unlimited energy or attention or anything. Even your brain capacity to remember is very limited. So you need to always remember that your brain is always making calculations. So you want to stop procrastinating on something. This is first thing you need to do. How does it relate to my survival, me thriving, me getting more resources? Why is that important? And then you get the reward, you get the progress going. One amplifier here, accountability, because social status for human beings is very important. It's, our safety, more opportunities, it's, procreation. And so if you have a buddy, a friend, anyone like family member who can keep you accountable, you'll do surprisingly more for them than for yourself. And that, again, just because social status has always been so important for human survival, mammalian survival in general. That's how the brain of a mammal works. We are tribal animals. So that's, concept number 1, why you procrastinate on some things, but not on others. Now, I'm going to take a sip of water. I'm going to, this is like drinking from a fire horse, right? I've been, getting this information for many months and years. So it is very clear in my head, not necessarily in your head. That's why, if you're taking notes, that's amazing, because then you can ask better questions and in your own time kind of go through this information again to understand it deeper. So concept number 2, your brain will not do things that it considers too expensive. By expensive, we mean too much resources expended for too little of a reward. Imagine this thing. You come to a supermarket, you see a pineapple, and it costs, let's say, $1,000. Will you buy it? You will not, because the price you pay for the value you get, just not comparable. That's what we all do as human beings. So your brain does the same time, every single time. Let's say, again, you are starting a podcast. So let's see the cost. Okay, in our head, we are usually making it complicated. We need to find guests, and that will take time, and possibly different resources, how we approach those guests. Like maybe you have Calendly, like so many resources already. We need to have equipment. We probably need to invest in that. We need, again, spend time and energy educating ourselves, buying it. More resources. We need to find a host for our podcast to put the stuff online and keep it there. Again, you have to educate yourself. You have to spend time and energy and most probably money on that, right? So your costs are rising. Now on what you get, usually if you procrastinate on that thing, there is maybe something, maybe nothing. Like the value that you get in your head, it's literally that not clear. You're like, I should probably do the podcast. It might be good for my brand. And that's all you get for all the costs right now, right? So you have to pay imaginary thousands of dollars for very little value. And your brain is like, why? What's the purpose? I'm not stupid, right? I'm not doing that. So what you do is that, like, here your cost, here your value. We're going to bring the cost down, the value up. How do we do that? We make the first step very easy. How are you going to start the podcast? On my phone with the mic it has. I don't have to do any extra work. Where are we going to host it? Any free platform. All of them provide free plans. Who are we going to invite? We're going to invite ourselves, talking about our story. Episode 101, I'm going to introduce myself, and it's going to be 5 minutes. Right, so now to start it, you probably need like 5 minutes of time and resources, right? So cost, we just reduced it. And keep in mind, it's all self-talk, nothing changed. It's just how you perceive reality, how we all do that if we don't talk to ourselves better. And now value, okay. So the podcast can, from the day one, bring to my business additional customers. Like, let's say you have a business who can benefit from online audience. Now, I perhaps get to talk to experts who can bring additional audience to me, to my business, right? What else can we get from podcasts? We can use our podcast to advertise on different podcast platforms. Again, going to bring to us money, also friendships. Also, we possibly can grow it, and it will increase our social status as an expert, right? You see, now the value is growing, and the cost is really small. And you repeat it several times, and you're like, yeah, I'm doing it tomorrow or today, right now, because why not? It is going to take 5 minutes, right? And I'm online. And so every time we are procrastinating on something, after we understand, after we walk ourselves through the value, what are we getting? We want to make sure that that cost value equation is where it needs to be. And again, you're lowering the cost, but by simplifying the process, making the first step very clear, very simple, very fast, and talking yourself through, again, on paper works better, potential value and what it can bring into your life, how you can grow as a person, as a business, like how much value it can be. And you literally, have like 2 columns, costs and the benefits and the value that you're going to get. And your value should be like ideally 10 times bigger. And that's where your brain like, you're stupid by not doing that, right? So we're just going to do it. So this is number 2, right? First, why is it important? How does it contribute to my survival, thrival, social status? Number 2, this cost value equation. Okay, 2 columns, write down cost, minimize them, value, increase. Again, it's all done through your self-talk. It is also all real, but it just, there are days when you look at one side of the city and it's sunny, and you look at another side of the city and it's cloudy. And depending on where you look, your mood will change, and your brain will think whether that's a good day to go out or it's better to sit at home, right? It can literally mean like your windows might be on one side, somebody else is on the other, and because of that, you make different choices. As easy as that. It's like the brain is not that smart in that sense. Very easy to like tell your brain a lot of things that it will believe. So again, number 1, value. Number 2, cost value equation. And number 3, you simply forget. Our world is full of distractions. Messaging, emails, things you gotta get done, things, other people, unexpected circumstances. There are so many things. And very often for the brain, it's hard to, again, distinguish unless you do the work, what's more important, what's less important. So your brain like remembers what's the most important, what feeds you, and making sure you don't die and you survive, right? The rest kind of on the background. And so if you want to not forget about new things that you want to start, like starting a podcast, you need to introduce smart triggers or reminders in your physical and digital environment. How do we do that? There are 2 proven by research best ways to do so. They did studies, for example, making sure that people who register to vote, they actually go and vote instead of just forgetting about the whole thing altogether. So they did one thing. They called people and they asked them to tell them how when, and where they're gonna vote. So literally on the phone, they would ask, how you gonna vote? Like, what's the method, right? What are like, well, are you gonna do it online? Are you gonna do it offline? When exactly are you gonna do it? The day and the time. And where? What is the address where you're gonna go to do that? How, when, and where? They created this recipe in their head. And for the brain, it's kind of like making the action already. It's building this neural circuit. And once you repeat it several times, how, when, and where, it's like already doing the action and you're repeating it. And it's so much easier to jump into action once you have this recipe. So let's say you want to start a podcast. Okay, how, when, and where? In my living room, I'm going to do it in the morning, 9 a.m. And I'm going to use my phone and talk about my background for 5 minutes, right? My story. How, when, and where? And you repeat it, even better, write it down. Everything is better in writing several times, and you have the recipe. The second thing that is also crucial to make this happen, hot reminders, like hot tea. Sometimes my pronunciation is not perfect, so making sure that you understand, folks. Hot reminders, how are they different from cold? This concept of hot reminder was popularized by James Clear in his book Atomic Habits. So let's talk about cold reminder. Cold reminder is something like, let's say I'm making a podcast and I set my alarm with the reminder, let's say at 6 a.m. So I got that reminder. And let's say I decided to do the podcast after work. And so by the time after the reminder, 6 a.m. in the morning till 6 p.m. after you come home from work, there are a lot of things will happen, right? They will occupy your mind space. So many urgencies, messages, emails, like just a lot of stuff, right? And by the time it's 6 p.m., you are, especially if it's a new thing, most likely not going to remember all that well what you needed to do. So instead, you might still have the 6 a.m. alarm, but you also need to have an alarm right before that action of recording the podcast happening. Ideally, 5, maybe 10 minutes before whatever you need to get ready, or maybe when you're leaving work, you get another reminder telling you, you come home, you're recording your podcast. And that's when it's a hot reminder that you're not going to forget it, right? So before the action, when and where you're going to perform the action, there has to be either an alarm or you come home and the podcast, maybe the mic or the reminder is right there. Record your podcast right now, right? This is a hot reminder because you are going to be doing the action right then and there, not next morning, not, next month on Tuesday, right then and there. So this is a good reminder that is effective, that will actually help you to make things done. The same with, meetings. Very often we schedule calls and then we forget about them. Even though we might have like a reminder in the morning, by the time it's noon, we already forgot about that. You're like, oh, it slipped my mind. I was so busy that I forgot. The better reminder is like 30 minutes before, 15 minutes before, and you go, right? So this is a hot reminder that will work for the brain much better. And first, recipe, and then the reminder, either in your physical environment or your digital environment, or maybe a combination of them. Just remember, the more distracted your environment is, the more of those reminders you will need to not remember. And it's not because your brain, again, is not working right. It's because you have a lot of stuff. And the extra stuff, you didn't even, make it apparent that it was very important in your life and in your work, for your future, for you thriving. So these are the things that you need to address with every single thing that you procrastinate on. And once you do that, folks, you're not going to be procrastinating. If you do these 3 steps, making sure you write down the value, how does it contribute or has the potential to contribute to your resources, to your, thriving, your status, how is it going to contribute? Number 2, cost and value stack, you need to write it down, make the beginning very small and very simple, inexpensive. And then number 3, your recipe and your reminders. And after that, I never met a person who did this work and then they again procrastinated. It's like when your brain understands that this is important, your ass is on fire, it will do that, right? And that's the kind of feeling you gotta have. And usually you know that, right? When you feel this urgency, you're gonna do that. And you don't need any reminders. You like run and do that, day or night. So that's it. That's the, what I learned from research and studies and in practice. And it's all about just now learning how to work with your brain, helping it to not procrastinate, right? And of course, folks, again, it's like giving you, a fire hose with a lot of water. It's a lot of information. So after this is done, this workshop is done, you'll also get, by the way, the recording. Perhaps, what is the best way for you to get the recording? If you, put the emails in the chat, I'll send it to you. So that's number 1, re-watch it and make sure that on the things that you actually want to do, you are serious about doing them, you work with these exercises on this project, right? So this is thing number 1, you got to rewatch it and you actually got to do the work. Knowledge is not, power. Action, that's where the power is. That's thing number 1. And I'm thinking about creating also a group, 4-week group to work every week on a call with every specific skill, personalizing it. Again, small group, right? If you guys interested in that, also do let me know. And yeah, you can unmute yourself and ask also questions. Anything that you have in mind right now?
I really enjoyed that second point that you do the list of the cost and value. It's a very, I guess, like practical way to putting, because it's true. Like you always say, oh, that's too expensive for what it is, or for what for the time.
Yeah.
And I think also it's very important to, like you were saying, like to track that progress, because at first you don't see nothing is coming out from what you're doing. So you just lose interest, I guess. And
but you will not lose interest if you track the progress, even if it's just the work done. Why? Because one thing your brain also hates: wasting energy. There is this, sunk cost fallacy. When you invest into something and you are very aware of the fact of investing energy and time, your brain does not like to quit, actually, right? So when you start tracking it and putting hours into that, you are so much less likely to quit. Especially if you have like a calendar, there is this exercise, don't break a chain, and people put like a cross with workouts or something else. And they have the rule, never, never make 2 missed, spots in a row. And people really stick with that just because you're like, I already did all that much. I don't want to lose it, right? Mm-hmm. That's how the brain starts speaking. But you need to, you're right, Christopher, you need to have some sort of progress tracking. Otherwise, your brain is like, I did something, whatever. I'm going to forget about that.
I also think it's very, when you take the first step and start doing the action, that's kind of when the ball starts rolling, I guess, because I have a lot of things I want to do, but I never take that first step of doing it, and then I think things would start to follow. Oh, this person knows this. Oh, so if I contact that person, maybe he knows that, and it's kind of that. I think so. A lot of the times it's just it's just in my head, the idea, but not taking any action. I think, and I don't know. That's
totally makes sense.
That's just adding something to what you were saying, I guess, too.
It's for me, I'm in Brazil right now learning Portuguese. If I decided, I need to take join some school or course, and that's like a whole complicated question, finding the school, finding the teacher, etc., figuring that out. I'm like, no, I'm going to start with Duolingo free version that I'm going to download right now, and I'm going to do it for 5 minutes. That's how I'm going to start. And I'm on day 100, I think 60 or something streak with my Duolingo now. And they're smart. They also tell you, you fell out of your, league, like you lost your third place. And you're like, oh my God, I have to do the practice. I don't want to be losing.
Yeah, they are a very good example with Duolingo, and they are really emphasizing on the reminders,
Yeah, and find reminders.
Well, and this is how I got started with German as well. And then I continued, like when I kept my interest for, I don't know how much time, then I continued studying it in a longer program.
Yes, so that works, and smart companies, they are using it. And I think one of my like major points of my mission is to help people to get those tools, to use them. They are free and available to use in your life, whatever you choose to do. Like you don't have to wait for someone to remind you. You can do it for yourself. Just do it, based on science. And again, and everything I presented besides the stories, how the brain talks, it's like I imagine all this, the brain is like a character talking, but besides that, it's all based on research and studies of, from the best universities. Neuroscience come out with this science, and then they do different studies in real life, like voting, right? And figuring out how to make people come and vote, because, people say they will and they never do. So that's just what we do. Any other questions, thoughts?
I had a question. I don't know if it's like, maybe it's a question, but it's but this idea, or like the thing that you want to do, if you follow this system, can you still do it on this, like on the side, like if you have a job, right? But that you have this idea that you want to do, I guess, like a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
If you follow the system, would you still be able to do it kind of like the system on the side and still keep doing your job? I'm saying because your job, I needed to like, to like pay the bills and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But then if you do it on the side, then it's kind of not, I guess, that important in that scale. So this, I don't know if the system would work
It's a good question, but I've never met anyone really, except for when you have some real disorders like hypermania or something like that. The brain knows how to track the important stuff. Meaning, like, if it's your work and you're fully aware that it's what's paying your bills, your brain will not forget that. Like, you gotta go crazy, and I don't know, somebody has to hit you real hard on your head, right, for you to forget that, because it's literally feeding you, might be feeding your family, so your brain does not forget those things. It's so like ingrained in us. When, of course, if you decide to start something and you realize, well, I don't actually have the time and resources. At this point, you just gotta be like, okay, I have 24 hours a day. I need to handle this, and either figure out where to find the time or just quit it for the time being. It's also, partially is that, like, okay, I'm procrastinating on this podcast thing, but maybe it's because I'm busy making sure that I take care of myself and of my family. And at this point, you're like, okay, let's set a date in 3 months, and I'm gonna get back to this question and reconsider. Because it doesn't matter what, but 24 hours a day, it's not stretchable. I always like to get people back to the idea, like the universe works the way it works, and you can't change certain things, like gravity. I want to fly and I don't want to walk, but unfortunately not going to work anytime soon, right? So gravity is here to stay. So I have to work to even, just get out of my door. The same was 24 hours a day. You have to sleep, you have to eat, you have to take care of yourself, and all of us find the way to do that. And if you don't have time for a certain project at the moment, then just, again, put it aside for a moment and be okay with that. There is nothing wrong or right about that. We all have different lives, right? But, I think having this conversation is also very important. Otherwise, it's like an open loop at the back of your head. Like always reminding, and it gives you this negative energy, or I'm procrastinating, or I'm not doing that, even though it might not be true. You just literally don't have the time at the moment. So you're like, okay, 3 months from now, I'm going to set a reminder and I'm going to think about that again.
And I guess how much it depends how much value you put on it, and yeah, you're gonna make it a priority or not.
Yeah, that's also, of course, we decide what is important, and that's also, I guess, what I want to emphasize. You have a vision of your life. Sometimes we are not that clear, and that's why also I think it's important to do some work to figure out what you want your life to be about, and then from there, you need to ask yourself, is this project really important, or can I just skip it? Right? Like I can be doing a ton of other things, always have these ideas, but now I'm, for example, asking myself, is my writing really important, or can I quit it so I do better in something else? Right? Sometimes even with people, like, is this person really adding to my life? Am I adding to their life, or should we just part ways? It's always back to the idea, is it contributing to the vision of my life that I see myself living in a few years? And if it's not, let's reconsider. And it's okay also to test out. Last week I tested out working for another coaching company, and I realized it wasn't for me because I had something that I want to develop unique, separately from that company. And those 10 hours a week actually were more of a burden, not adding to my life. Right? Like, okay, I tried it, didn't work. Thank you guys for the opportunity. I'm going to go a different direction. And it's okay also, folks, podcast, building your brand, acting, it's okay to try. Give it, Tim Ferriss, actually, when he started his famous podcast, one of the best podcasts in the entire world, he gave himself 5-episode trial. He said, I'm going to record 5 episodes and see how I do. And so, I don't know, 10 years or how many later, it's his biggest project that brought everything else. But that's where he started, recording with his friend Kevin Rose on his phone drunk. That's how it started. Right? So,
yeah, I guess this is related to the milestones that you have to set. Like if you set the first milestone, that's something small. If you achieve it, you can see that, like if you're motivated enough to continue or you want to stop.
Yeah, or maybe you want to stop. Maybe you thought, oh, it's a great idea. You tried it and like, I don't really like it much. A lot of projects like that, people sometimes ask, oh, but you used to have this block and that block. I'm like, yeah, I try a bunch of things and most of them don't work. Yeah, let me know, folks, if there is anything else. If not, I'll let you go. And I have your emails. I'm going to send you the recording shortly. Let me know also in the response of that email if you want to join the group. It's going to start in 2-3 weeks. Going to be like 5 people where, again, we're going to work through all the skills, and you're going to have your project that you're going to work on. And also there's going to be accountability group and a bunch of other fun stuff. But yeah, let me know in the response of that email. And yeah, do you have any questions?
Not really questions from me. I quite like the idea about the group. So yeah, I'm interested to learn more about it. I guess you're going to send more information in the email. Probably would join as well. And yeah, just a comment on everything that we talked about. I just like how, like, in our brain, everything sometimes looks so complicated, but when you, like, you can boil it down to very simple steps that you need to take and follow, and just, yeah, if you take them in the right way, yeah, it's gonna work.
You're creating you're creating the manual.
I'm going to take one skill at a time, that's the, but yeah, you're right also, Laura, that the basic idea is the brain is designed to help you achieve your goals, right? Just like any animal. Just for the animals, they have very basic like reality and stuff they need to take care of. Our brain got this complex reality, and now it has to take care of our needs, taking into account all of these complications. But at the end of the day, it's still the machine. That's primary purpose. Make sure that you survive, thrive, procreate, and your brain is happy then. So you got to connect everything you do to that basic stuff.
Yeah, I also want to say thank you. It was really helpful.
And thank you guys for showing up, for joining me. It's again one of the first workshops I'm going to do like that. My milestone, something that I'm working on right now is building the tribe of people who really want to understand this machine to use it how it was designed to. And so, building those like pages that attract people and talking to people in the right way so people come. So this is where I'm working. So the tribe gonna grow, but I'm very, very, very thankful for you for showing up, being such an amazing, attentive, focused audience and questions interacting. So from my heart, thank you. Really appreciate you folks.
We thank you as well for the time and